Hello, my frostbitten fiends. Before the screaming. Before the knocking. Before the dead remembered how to climb. There was a mistake. Years ago, long before snow-buried County Route 6, men from Redwood County arrived at Black Hollow Cemetery with shovels, floodlights, and paperwork stamped approved. The land was cheap. Forgotten. Full of graves no one bothered to mark. They dug anyway. Coffins split beneath steel blades. Frozen fingers snapped off and rolled into the dirt. Skulls cracked. Names were lost. Bones were shoveled back into shallow pits and sealed under concrete. The farmhouse was built on top of it all. No prayers. No blessing. No warning. Every winter, when the ground hardened and the dead couldn't sink any deeper, the house began to remember. Pipes froze even with the heat running. Footprints appeared in fresh snow and led nowhere. Faces pressed up through cellar walls, only to vanish by morning. But this winter was colder. January didn't just freeze the earth. It sealed it shut. And the dead had nowhere left to go. Except up. That was the night Harold Whitmore came home. The house was already cold when Harold stepped inside. Not the ordinary January cold, the kind that seeps through cracks and settles into your joints, but something deeper. Something wrong. The farmhouse sat alone on County Route 6, pressed tight against Black Hollow Cemetery, and that night the wind carried a smell from the frozen ground. Rot. Harold stomped snow from his boots and laughed when he saw his wife, Clara, standing rigid in the kitchen, her breath fogging thick in the air. Heat's out again, he sneered. The furnace rattled once. Then died. The lights flickered. Then came the sound. Not from the door. From beneath the floorboards. A slow, deliberate thud. Wood creaking upward. Nails whining in protest. Something heavy pressing from below. Frost crawled across the linoleum, spreading in pale, branching veins around Harold's boots. Stop it, he muttered, though Clara hadn't moved. The cellar door buckled. A hand punched through the wood. Gray. Split. Fingernails black and broken, packed with frozen dirt. The fingers twitched, scraping blindly, snapping at the joints as they clawed upward. Harold screamed. More hands followed. The cellar door exploded inward, and the cold rushed out like a living thing. Shapes dragged themselves up from the darkness, bodies bent backward, joints locked wrong, skin cracked and blackened by frost. Mouths hung open mid-scream, eyes collapsed into hollow pits filled with ice. They didn't rush him. They recognized him. One crawled forward, jaw hanging loose, tongue frozen solid against its chin. Its throat gurgled as it tried to speak, ice cracking inside dead lungs. Harold stumbled backward, slipping as frost formed instantly beneath his feet. He crashed into the counter, knocking the meat cleaver to the floor. The dead surrounded him. Hands seized his legs. Cold burned worse than fire. Frozen fingers dug into his calves, snapping bone with wet, hollow pops. He kicked and screamed as they dragged him down, skin tearing, blood steaming briefly before freezing black. One climbed onto his chest. Its weight crushed the air from his lungs. Its mouth opened wide, and pressed to his throat. It didn't bite. It drank. Not blood. Heat. Harold felt it instantly, his breath turning to ice inside his chest, his heartbeat slowing, his veins burning as the cold raced through him. His screams thinned into wheezing gasps. Another corpse twisted his arm. Bones snapped. The sound echoed through the house. The cleaver lay inches away. Harold reached for it. A frozen boot slammed down on his wrist, shattering it flat against the floor. Dozens of fingers closed around his throat, squeezing, freezing, crushing. The cellar yawned open beneath him. The dead pulled him down. The door slammed shut. Above, Clara stood frozen, listening to her husband's screams echo from below. Until they didn't. The knocking stopped. The house went still. Hours later, Clara opened the cellar door. Harold Whitmore was frozen solid at the bottom of the stairs. Eyes wide. Mouth locked open. Skin cracked like ice on a winter pond. His throat was torn open, not by a blade, but by teeth. The furnace kicked on. The lights steadied. Outside, Black Hollow Cemetery settled. The ground closed. By morning, the storm had passed. When police finally reached the farmhouse, they found the doors standing open, snow drifting through the halls. In the cellar, they found Clara, frozen stiff, fingers chewed to bone, her face locked in terror. Harold's body was gone. Back in the ground. Where it belonged. Looks like winter finally claimed its due. Because when the earth can't stay frozen, the dead don't stay buried.